Okay, Loretta. What's going on, collective? Welcome to By the Season 4 Tarot. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in here. This is going to be a special live because we have a special guest. But we're going to wait for some people to hop on board. Hopefully everybody has saw the announcement that I have posted. So today is a special guest, guys. Special guest. And I will be introducing her in a second. Once we get some people to hop on board, collective. How's everybody doing? Happy, what is today? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday, everybody. Make sure you guys drop a comment. Let me know that you're in the chat. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys got the message, okay? Hopefully you guys got the flyer. You saw the flyer. You saw the announcement. So you guys are going to get to see our special guest that we have here. I'm trying something completely new. So we're just going to see how things go. But like I mentioned, you guys can bring your child along. They can watch this live because obviously we have a teenager here. Hi, Eileen. How you guys doing? Thank you, everybody, for tuning in here. I'll wait a little bit. We'll give it about 8:02, 8:03-ish. Hey, Amanda. How's everybody? Good evening. Good evening. I'll get introducing my special guest in a minute, you guys. I just want some people to come on board. We're going to be doing a live questionnaire. Once we are done with the introduction, I'm going to be doing some questions, and then we're going to get into collective questions. So, how's everybody doing? Thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I know everybody probably tired from work, but today is going to be a very special day. Very special live here today. So, as you guys know, what is it, 8:02 already? Or is it I said 8:02, didn't I?
Yeah.
I be forgetting sometimes. How you guys doing? You guys make sure you drop a comment down below. This is going to be a different live today. So I'm not going to be doing an actual live tarot reading. It's going to be something a little bit different. We're going to mix it up, switch it up a little bit. Hey, Mel. How you guys doing? Make sure you guys drop me where you're from. Let us know where you're residing at, what state, what country. I love to hear from the collective. Thank you guys for tuning in here. Happy Wednesday, guys. Look, 777. Angel number. Tennessee. Hey, 10. Oh, because you're the only 10 I see. You like that, Amanda? Hopefully nobody's ever told you that. Mel is from New Jersey. We got Long Island. Oh my God, Amanda, that's funny. We got Long Island. How's everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in here. Special guest. We got a special guest. Angel is from North Carolina. How's the weather in North Carolina, Angel? Let me know what's going on down there. How's everybody? All right, you guys. So today we have a special guest, collective. And it is Lariyah Nycole. This is Lariyah Nycole, everybody. This is my daughter. Say hi, Lariyah. Say
hi.
She's a little camera shy, guys. Well, maybe not camera shy, but she's a little shy. This is her first time being live. And so today I decided to do something a little bit different, to touch base with the collective. I know.
Oh, they said I'm pretty. I get it from my mom.
Oh, thank you, Mel. That's so nice. But yes, I said Emma. Texas. Shout out to Texas, y'all. Thank you guys for coming in here. So this is my daughter, Lariyah Nycole. And I decided to come on live with her because there's some things that I I want to expand my network of collective. And I feel like a lot of the times, us parents, we're so busy with life, with the hustle and bustle. We don't really, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes you don't even have time to, ask your children questions or really sit down with them and have in depth conversations. Or maybe sometimes you struggle with connecting to your children because in the environment and society that they're growing up in today is kind of different to, because right, we're if you're an 80s baby, you definitely know what I'm talking about. It's like, what is going on, y'all? How's everybody doing? Thank you guys for tuning in here. So, we're going to be asking Lariyah a couple questions, and maybe this will help some of my parents out there with giving, with a different perspective. The whole point of this is to give parents a different perspective and see things from a child or a teen. Well, she's a teenager. She's 15, so well, soon to be 15. So and to have a viewpoint from a teenager's perspective, right? Because oftentimes we don't put ourselves in our children's shoes, so we don't really know what they're really thinking about, the struggles that they're facing in school, in the public, and society, the pressures that they feel. So we're just going to be doing a little mini live on this, and sometime this week I'll be going live doing a normal tarot, but this may be something that I'm incorporating with my lives. So if you guys have children and you want that kind of encouragement, or you want that kind of knowledge or support, this is what it's for. Okay, this is a safe zone for all. A safe zone, did I say that right? A safe zone for everybody. Okay, and like I said, I want to expand my lives. I want to expand. I know I don't, I don't always want to be doing tarot, right? Because I'm really good at doing that, right? I'm really good at using my intuition and, reading for you guys. But it's time to switch it up a little bit, okay? And see what we can further do. Okay, so you guys, so we're going to get started here. Lariyah, she's going to talk about, if you, Lala for short, she's going to give us a little bit of her background and introduction. So go ahead, Lariyah, I will give you the floor.
So I'm Lariyah, and I'm 14, and I am a person that is usually very busy, and it can become stressful and overwhelming sometimes. And I know that I'm not the only teenager that goes through these things, and other teenagers also do the same things. So if you guys have kids or teenagers that are in a bunch of clubs at school or a bunch of sports at school, yeah, it's very tiring.
Tell us a little bit about what is it that what kind of sports are you in? What kind of clubs and groups are you associated with at school?
So I play soccer as a goalkeeper, and then am also I also run track, and I'm a freshman ambassador at my school. But for sophomore year, I joined SGA, Student Government Association, as a sophomore treasurer, which basically manages finances for the school and budgets school events and creates partnerships between businesses in our school. And
so tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about why did you want to be a part of the student government, specifically be a treasurer?
I just think that being a treasurer and managing finances is a really big deal, and I just like being a part of big things because it makes me feel proactive, and it makes me feel like I'm making a difference, because without certain positions within student government or certain clubs within the school, our school would be totally different. Everything that's inside a school is what makes it what it is today.
Okay, that's good to know. And is that something that you want to tie to your career, or explain to us a little bit about how being a part of these clubs, because you're not only a part of you're not only an ambassador, but you're, what else are you a part of? Ladies Quest. Can you share with us about what Ladies Quest is about?
Um, Ladies Quest is a bunch of young women that it's like a big club. They volunteer at different places or events, and they just help bring the community together, and their whole purpose is to show people that women are strong and that they're capable of things by themselves.
Who run the world? Girls. Who run the world? Girl. You guys know, there goes my karaoke. Okay, so now that we've given that introduction and Lariyah has explained to us a little bit about what she is into, and her goals as far as, her ambitions. Okay, we're gonna get into some questions that I have for Lariyah that maybe will give some insight for you guys, as part of the collective, and just in daily life, right? I like to see how a teenager thinks, right? Because maybe, we can also learn from our children, and children or kids are the best example, right? Of that. So my first question to Lariyah is, what is something you learned recently that you think is important, and why?
I learned that um,
It's okay. Take your time. So, what is something you learned recently that is important to you and your values as a female and as a high schooler? And it's something that you can carry with you, whether it was recently or just in general.
one thing that I've learned is the opposite of success isn't failure. Failure is a part of the journey to become successful, and I think a lot of people fail in order to become successful because you are supposed to learn from your mistakes. And even though you mess up one time, or you mess up two times, or you mess up countless times, there's always an opportunity to become better the next time, and there's always an opportunity to learn from that mistake and become successful in the future.
Okay. All right. That's a great answer. Okay. Love it. Um, if you could solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
Um, I would solve um hunger and homelessness, because I just think that it's not fair, especially to young children who don't really have that option to be wealthy because their parents didn't, um, I guess, create that life for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I was given an opportunity to help everybody to have not just a house but a home, and food on on their table, and clothes on their backs, I think that would be a good thing, because
How would that make them more successful? Especially when you think about being in school and the pressure from school, and um, because a lot of today, there could be a lot of parents that send their kids to school, and they really don't, their agenda could be very self-centered versus not really caring about how their kids feel about their appearance, or they may, that may cause a lot of insecurity. So how do you think that kind of upbringing affects a child, as a teenager, especially as a teen and into an adult?
I think when um, I think when they're not given the opportunity to, well, there's kind of a saying that's like, the way you perform, it's like reflected in your face. And so if you look good and like you feel good,
Mm-hmm.
and some parents aren't fortunate enough, or some parents don't care enough to give their kids those good things, and they instead buy stuff, or keep the good things to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that also, it's like kind of like a chain reaction. Like kids could be bullied, and then them being bullied turns them into bullies,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just the cycle repeats. Or I don't know.
Well, and now that we're talking about cycles, what do you, now that you've actually brought that up about cycles, as a teenager, do you think that you are able to notice repeating cycles that are toxic?
Am I able to?
Yeah, like, are you able to notice repeating cycles, like, as a teenager? Is that something that you can become self-aware, like, about toxic traits and things repeating itself and, like, repeated lessons?
In other people or myself?
Like, just in general, just in general.
Yeah,
well, let's share with us one experience where something was something was repeating for you that maybe you had a hard time overcoming or learning in your life. Oh, that's my stomach, guys. Shh. It's a good question. So what is something that you, it could be in school, it could be something that it could be academically, it could be yourself personally, like something that you struggle with that is like, maybe it could be being impulsive sometimes. Or maybe getting too overwhelmed, or maybe jumping the gun. And that could be something that is, in different scenarios, it's something that you see yourself doing all the time. Like, do you think that happens to you, and that you could become self-aware of that as a teenager?
Yeah, I think I have a repetitive kind of sort of trait in when I am overwhelmed, I tend to not talk as much, and I tend to keep to myself, or I just have a lot of like thoughts about like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, and you always notice yourself going back to the same thing, to that same feeling over and over again, because you don't remind yourself to take a break, or
Mm-hmm.
you don't remind yourself that because you feel like you're doing all these good things, that doesn't mean that that's not pulling you down or weighing you down. So it can be good in the long run, but it's also not good within you, like mentally.
Mm-hmm. And is it something that you have to constantly remind yourself about when you feel like you're getting there to that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to an overwhelming feeling, sometimes it kind of just happens. Like, you can't really prevent yourself from feeling that way. The only thing you can think of or try to do is how you can overcome that feeling and how you can make yourself better.
Okay.
Because when you know what hurts you, instead of focusing on also what hurt you, you can also just focus on the solution, on what would make you better.
Okay, that's good. I love that. All right, so moving on. And this goes to my third question. It's a good thing that we're talking about this. What would happen if nobody ever made a mistake? If nobody ever made a mistake and we just did everything right, what do you think would happen? Is that an ideal perfect world to you? If nobody made a mistake, could we learn that way? Could we be educated, knowledgeable if nobody ever made a mistake? How are making mistakes beneficial in life?
Because sometimes it teaches you the harder way. If your child gets in trouble at school, like they get suspended for a fight,
Mm-hmm.
And
did you lose your train of thought?
I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. So what I was saying was, what would happen if nobody ever made a mistake? So if you made mistakes, just like we were talking about, but how would that affect you? Like if you continue to do it.
If I continue to do it, and if I continue to do something I didn't know was wrong, nobody told me it was wrong, but I guess it ended up.
Go ahead. No, because I was going to ask you a question.
And I ended up repeating that same thing. Nobody told me it was a mistake. Mm-hmm. I would just live my life in a sort of lie because I haven't been doing anything.
So do you, right. Okay, so now with that, do you think it is important to adhere to your parents' advice?
I think yes and no.
Okay.
Because parents, obviously they're older, they have more wisdom, but also
allegedly.
Also,
right?
I think every situation is different, and if you have judgment on a certain situation that you yourself is going through, mm-hmm. and you feel like that is the right decision, then nobody can tell you that it's wrong per se, because I mean you've thought about it.
Right.
And if there's times where parents always think they're right, no offense.
Is that true? My parents out there, do you guys feel like that? Have your kids ever told you that?
And it's like, I guess sometimes parents assume that because you're younger, you don't know as much, or you don't know mm-hmm. anything, or that you don't know much about, for example, like emotional intelligence, mm-hmm. or like certain morals or values.
But where do you learn emotional intelligence from?
I think
is that based off experiences?
Yes, you learn it from experiences, and you also learn it secondhand. Mm-hmm. So your experience could come from your household, mm-hmm. your parents growing up. You can learn from them, and that's why some teenagers they learn love the wrong way because of their parents.
Okay,
and they're not giving that right example.
Okay, and let's talk about that. When a child, so let's talk about that. So, if a child or a teen is not brought up in or feels love from their mother or their father, how do you think that affects their relationship with themselves and with others?
With themselves, I think because kids and basically teenagers, I don't know if you've ever listened to Billie Eilish, but Billie Eilish, she technically makes music for teenagers, because she once said that when you're a teenager or adolescent or whatever you want to call it, emotion is part of, like, it's the biggest thing in your life. It's what makes up a teenager, and it's what molds somebody to become who they are, because that's when they start having new experiences. Mm-hmm. And
you think emotions is connected to everything that you do in life?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's important that you feel that it's important that a child feels loved and is shown how to love, because their connections, if they don't have that, or if they're not shown that, or if they're always pushed away or rejected, then are you saying that that's how they're going to grow up to be? Maybe detached, maybe avoidance?
I think it can actually be both ways, because parents are the most important people in a child's life. Mm-hmm. And when they're not given that love from the most important people, they seek that somewhere else. Or in most ways it's hard to find that love within themselves. So when they don't find that, when they're not fulfilled with themselves, and they're always questioning themselves, because like I said, parents are the most important people in a child's life. So they question themselves, like, am I worth loving? Because if the most important people in my life don't love me, who will? So they might try to find that in other people instead of finding that love in themselves, and that actually makes them more attached to people because they don't want to be left. They don't want to be alone again.
Okay. And how do you feel that um I don't where was I going with that? I felt like I had so much to say there when she was talking. Um but as a child, when they're not shown love or they grow up in an environment that's very chaotic and toxic as a teenager, and then you have to go to school, how does that affect your schooling, or how does that affect. Matter of fact, this was what I knew what I was going to say. It came back to me. Have you seen this with other people, with other friends or associates in your life? Have you seen how, maybe coming from a broken home or a dysfunctional home in your friends, and maybe give us an example of what it is that you see in from knowing that about them, that maybe their dad or their mom, or maybe it's their sibling too, because that can happen, or maybe it's their grandparents. How does have you seen this in your friends that you have?
Yeah, and one of my closest friends, she tells me a lot that um, her dad is distant, and he goes out a lot, and um, her parents are split up, and I can kind of see how that plays a big role or an impact on her and the way she is, because I think, like I said, when you're not seeking that right love and attention from your parents, um, you tend to seek that in other people, so they become more clingy and more attached to other people because they feel like that's all they have left, and they don't have. And when you're not loved by I guess the right people or by yourself, you don't find that security. You don't feel safe. You don't feel comfortable by yourself, and so you can never be alone. You feel like you can't survive without another person.
Right, so you become like very codependent.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, I like this. What could parents learn from a child or teen that will help better their relationship? What advice could you give to us parents out there that struggle with connecting with our children, with teenagers, or maybe just in general with different folks? Like looking from a your perspective to maybe an adult perspective, what do you feel parents can learn from a child or a teenager?
Emotional understanding, like, to if parents were able to understand the thought process behind a teenager, which is a lot, because thoughts and your mental mindset, a it plays such a big impact on teenagers. That's why most become depressed, or most become, you know and so I think emotional understanding, because teenagers, they want to feel understood, because I mean, friends can understand you, but most time that's not who you want to be understood by. You want to be understood by your parents, because you live with them, you love them, you want to have a good relationship with them. And if parents could understand, like, oh, just because I don't have a job or I don't have to pay bills doesn't mean that I don't feel stressed out or I don't feel overwhelmed. Because at the end of the day, us as students, or us as athletes, or a member of a club, or whatever it might be, we still go through battles of our own internally and socially. and physically maybe.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what kind of battles do you face in school. I know that there is always. I mean, we live in Florida, y'all, so it's crazy out here in these schools. So tell me about some of the struggles. What do you struggle with as a teenager in school? Like, what do you see? Not just with yourself. Maybe give an example of yourself, and maybe something that you see while you're at school, or just in general.
I see. I mean, I always see a lot of couples, obviously.
Okay.
And I always hear about their arguments, and it's always over dumb stuff.
And like, what kind of, like, okay, so we obviously know puppy love and being in high school, because listen, we all been there. That's how I got one of my kids. So let's just say this. What is it that, like, what is being in a relationship like in today's world like for a teenager? Or so-called love, or having emotions for, like, what is that like? I mean, is it something that do you feel like is exhausting or tiring, or trying to keep up, or tell me about it.
Well, I think, which a lot of parents also don't understand, is how love doesn't have an age or an expiration date. Love comes at any moment in time. There's people that, I mean, you've heard stories of people that marry their friend from elementary school or from high school.
Okay,
so love doesn't have an age. It doesn't come in. I mean, it comes in time. You know what I mean? But it's
like when it finds you, it finds you.
It finds,
basically,
when it
right?
finds you, it finds you. So
and when you have feelings for people, obviously, when you go to school, right?
It definitely, like, obviously you have feelings for a person, but I mean, most high school relationships don't work out anyways, because you find that person to either be immature.
Okay, right, because we're in high school, right? We're teenagers.
But I also think that it comes, like, love comes when you find that just that right person. You can click with that person. You have a bond with that person, and it also, I'm sure it takes a lot of energy and time, because when you're in high school, you have the rest of your life to grow, and love is also, I guess, growth too. So you could meet each other when you're maybe not at your most mature level, but as long as you guys are capable to grow together and become.
And do you think that can happen while you go to school?
It's always possible that at least one or two of the relationships out of high school work out into marriage and stuff.
That's true, because I know people that I went to school with, and they're still together. It's crazy, but it's true. Sometimes you do find your soulmate when you're in high school, or even elementary school, and then you reconnect later in life, or maybe straight out of high school, y'all just keep going. I can see that. So let's get back to, like, what do you think about, what are the struggles in school besides, hooking up and all that gushy stuff? Like, what other challenges do you face? Bullying. I know bullying is one of them, because I can knock somebody's child up. They be crazy out here, y'all. These bullying out here they be doing.
Bullying.
And where do you think that stems from? So let's start. Okay, so that's a 2-part question. So let's start with the first one. What other and bullying and stuff, where do you think bullying stems from?
People are unfulfilled and not happy within themselves. So I think bullying can 9 times out of 10 be more of a projection type of thing, because you see something wrong within yourself, so you have to point it out. Within someone else. So I guess you don't feel as bad about yourself because you're different, or you may not have the same things that another person has. So, or people just bully just to bully, just be mean, just to be cool with their friends.
Because they can do it, because it's fun. Yeah, because they can do it and it's fun. Do you think that stems from at home as well?
Yeah, I think it can, because parents are role models, or older siblings are role models. So if they're not given that right person to look up to, they're just gonna be I guess, their own version of themselves, and they're gonna just do what they think is right.
Do you think that parents not giving their children enough attention, bullying stems from that? Because that person is seeking validation. They're seeking someone to pay attention to them. Yeah. Any attention is better than no attention. So do you think that a parent neglecting their child, or maybe saying, I don't have the time right now, or go do this, and never get back to them, or never sits down and have conversations, or ask them, how was your day? Or because maybe they're always busy, or they're working, or maybe they are just too, maybe they're drug addicts, right? Because that's a thing, right? Addiction is strong. Maybe it could be a wide range of things, but do you think that bullying stems from a teenager or a child being neglected at home and seeking that validation somewhere else, or seeking that attention?
I think it's many factors, but also another one could also be dominance. People feel, I guess that goes with validation. People want that dominance, or they want to have the upper hand on somebody else, because they don't feel that at home, maybe. Or
so, like, control. They want to be able to control.
Because when a person who is being bullied, they sometimes, a bully, they project themselves to be, or they portray themselves to be cool, and like they have it all, or they're just like a cool, popular person. And that's what gives the bully the upper hand, because he knows, or she knows, that people are thinking highly of them because of the way that person is being mistreated.
Correct. Okay. We already touched base, because my next question was, how important is being understanding? How important is it to you to be understood? But we already touched base, because that was like one of your main things when we discussed about relationships with parents, is being understood. But do you have more to add to that?
Yeah, but I think understanding is the key to everything. Even at work, or even with your friendships, you need to be able to understand each other. If you guys are left out the loop, and you guys aren't coming to an understanding within a solution for an argument, or an understanding or compromise with a person, it never works out, because you don't see eye to eye, and you're constantly looking within your opinions and the things that you have to say, or what you think, but you're not putting yourself in that person's shoes and thinking about their perspective. I clocked that tea.
She clocked that tea. But that also, but that also can stem from communication, right? Having issues with communication. If you don't know how to communicate. Do her friends that appear to have good relationships with their parents seem to perform better? Okay, we're going to get to that question. Momentarily. I'm going to come back to that, Angel. Okay, let's move on. Why do you feel it's hard for kids to be open with their parents? Well, we know it's understanding, but why else is it hard for kids to be open with their parents?
Because some parents, I think they come off as, well, I guess it goes back to understanding, but
yeah,
parents come off as harsh, or maybe they feel that their parent isn't emotionally available to come to, and so it's hard to open up to somebody, because it's hard to open up to your parent, because maybe they care about the way you see them. If they open up to you and they confess something, or they confess something that they feel,
that may be hard, right? Because it's hard when you don't know how your parent's going to react, and especially if you have a kind of parent that maybe explosive or may have a hard time or maybe narrow-minded or has a limited way of thinking where they're so stuck in their program ways of thinking from childhood that they don't realize that it's a different world out here today. And right?
Yeah, cuz parents' opinions matter the most. They fear that misjudgment from their parents, and so that's what scares them away. They keep themselves close because they feel like they're not going to be understood. And if they do open up, and they don't get the reaction out of their parents or the talk or the advice that they want out of their parents or whatever they're seeking, then they're just gonna crawl back into their shell, and they're not gonna want to open up again. It creates a bad experience for them.
It creates a barrier.
Yeah, it creates a wall. And that they distance themselves in that portion of your guys' relationship.
How can a parent that is experiencing misunderstandings with their child regain that trust back?
It takes a lot of patience, I'd say. You need to be able to, if you are the type to be explosive or emotionally unavailable, in a sense that you can't allow yourself to put yourselves in your kids' shoes, then that takes a lot of patience within yourself to be able to not only give your kid that time to create an open space, but also give yourself an open space. Because if you're not cool and you're not calm while they're trying to talk to you, that just makes the situation worse. That's what scares them away.
Yeah, I think that's true. And this could be something that's learned over time, though, because, most people may feel that, oh, well, they'll be all right. They're a kid. What do they know? They don't know nothing. It's like, what do you think about that when a parent just disregards emotions or how, or shuts a teenager's emotions down?
It makes you feel like your emotions are invalid, like they don't matter, like they're not right, or you just tend to question yourself, like, okay, well then why do I feel this way? Like you question yourself, and it causes you to be also emotionally unavailable. Because
you see that? Because what happens is when it's a pattern, right? It's a pattern that it's being transferred from one seed to another. It's being transferred. It's like I'm emotional distant, so I'm gonna, I may not realize it or I may not know it, but then when I'm emotional distant, my child is gonna be emotional distant because that's what I'm teaching my child to be like. That's the environment, right?
And you're not giving them that patience and that open space for them to come to you and tell you what they need, because they might not tell you what they need from you, but it's almost like when they tell you something, I guess, that they're just sometimes
listening, right?
You just want an open ear, or you want a shoulder. You just want in like open eyes, like leveled eyes, because yeah, obviously teenagers sometimes they become more in touch with their friends more than their own family, because they feel like they're the only people that can understand them, because that's their age group. They feel the same way about their parents,
right?
And that's not the way it should be. I feel like you should have more of an understanding with your family rather than your friends.
Cool. I like that. Okay. I got 2 more questions, guys, and then we're going to hit open questions, okay? Is it possible to experience love without ever feeling? Is it possible to experience love without ever feeling?
Yeah. Because I think love is more than a feeling. It's not just an emotion. It's an action. It's a commitment. love is all around. Love is what you put out into the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you could show love. You could show love by picking up your kid from school. It doesn't have to just be a feeling like, oh, I love this person, or I love my kid, or I love my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
It can
be an action.
Yeah, love can be shown in many different ways.
Do you think that actions speak louder than words when it comes to showing someone love?
Yes, because actions are basically like you can they can take your word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can say you're going to do something, but if you don't do it, that also
then it's meaningless, right? There's no meaning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you tell someone I love you, but you don't show them that you love them, then it's as good as nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to feel it, right?
If you tell somebody that you love them, it's most likely just that's in terms of relationship, I guess. But if you tell somebody you love them, you're only doing it because you feel like you have an obligation to say it, or because you want to get something out of that person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have no action behind I love you.
Oh, wait, let's backtrack. So, let's backtrack. Okay, she just said something, y'all. Ding, ding, ding. She just said something. Let's backtrack to what you just said. If you don't show someone you love them, then that person could just be trying to get something out of you. Right? And how do you know that? What would be something, like, how would you be able to tell that or see that? Or, and that could be the same for parents, right? But it can be in general. So go explain to me what is your reasoning behind that? What is your thought process?
I think one example I can think of is that if you say I love you to a person, that can, and you did something wrong, say you made a mistake. You made a mistake in hurting that person. It made you feel guilty, so you said, I'm sorry, I love you. But do you love them, or do you just want to keep that person in your life because they have a sort of meaning to you, or they bring a certain resource into your life?
What is that called when a person does that?
Manipulation.
Message. Message, yes. What else is that called? Gaslighting? Love bombing? Have you experienced any form of gaslighting, even with friends, or even with, I'm sure, boys that have liked you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how was your reaction, or how were you able to mitigate that situation?
It makes you feel real. I mean it makes it feel real, like, because in a certain tone that they say it. I'd like to say that's devil's work, because, girl, like, they mask themselves to be someone that they're not. They tell you that they love you, they tell you that they care for you, that they do all these things, but you don't see it visually.
Mm-hmm.
And
because there's no action, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
To mitigate that situation, I always take a step back. I always ask myself, okay, does this person show actions of love? Like, do they care to listen to me and about my problems? Mm-hmm. or are they self-centered and they always want me to be there for them? Like, are they there for me the same way I am there for them? Mm-hmm. Because love is mutual. It's two-way.
It's reciprocated, right? It's a reciprocated thing, and when something is only one way, it's not being reciprocated, right? So that could be like somebody just feeling like you're being breadcrumbed. Yeah. Basically, somebody just saying, here, I'll give you this little bit. Yeah, I like you, ha, 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 whatever. And even with your friends, or even with your family, right? Okay, so this is good. So this is my last question. What do you think a child or teen needs to thrive in today's society with family and friends?
I think that support is one of the biggest things. Because without support from your family, I guess you feel like you have nothing, right? I mean, if nobody shows up to your games, if nobody is able to pick you up or drop you off from school when you need it, that's in terms of support. And there are certain things that children need from their parents, like support.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're having lack of support, it limits them from their opportunities within themselves. And like they always say, sky's the limit, but sometimes you just need those people to help you get extra further to reach that potential.
Right. And so you think emotional stability is something that a child truly needs in order to survive in today's society, because it's harsh.
I think some things that parents also struggle with, they look at logic in terms of emotion. Like they look at facts. Because I think, like you said, emotional stability, they need to be shown that from their parents to learn what that is or to be capable of what that is. Because like we said, it's a chain reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And like I also said, emotion is the biggest part in a child's life, because that's what they have. And that emotion also builds from their experiences, whether it's between family, friends, or relationships.
Right. So having that is very important in order to thrive in today's society. Having someone to listen to you, to care about, or to care about what matters to you in general, right? I think that's very important, to really show your child that you genuinely care about what they're experiencing and help them navigate that, because a lot of our teens are labeled with, oh, they're manic, or they're depressed, or they have anxiety, or they have ADHD, or they have depression. But a lot of the times it's because it's something that is programmed from their upbringing, from their own parents, that that mental health starts to show up. And how can you really put mental health you know on a teenager that's in the it's in the most important critical stage of transformation, because when you're a teenager, that's when your hormones are, you're growing, your brain is growing, your body's growing. So as a teenager, that is the most critical time in their life for growth, and in that you're going to have a whole wide range of emotions and feelings. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and some parents think like their kid is so shut down that they don't know what to do. They don't know how to reach out to them. And if parents are willing to change that relationship for the better, they don't know how to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, in my opinion, if that's something that you struggle with your kid, it's not always it's not always a therapist, or it's not always a huge long talk. Sometimes it's just
Hey, let's go get ice cream.
Yeah.
and
Oh, I was literally thinking
really.
sometimes it's just going out for a drive for ice cream, and then hearing about their day, the day they've had, or their stresses. They just need an ear. They just need somebody there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't even need to talk back. Sometimes they're not looking for advice. They're just looking to vent.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes maybe they don't feel comfortable going to their friends about certain things because they feel like they'll judge.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't feel comfortable around their friends, then parents should definitely be that helping hand.
Okay. That was beautiful. So those were all of my questions that I had for Lariyah. So I am going to go up because I know Angel had a question. So let me see what Angel's question was. Do her friends that appear to have good relationships with their parents seem to perform better? So do some of your friends that have good parents, do you see them thriving? Do you see them doing well?
I think that it depends on the kid because, well, I guess it's like, I mean, it's not a lose-lose situation, but it depends on the kid that you have.
Because you can still have good parents, right?
You can still have a healthy relationship with your parents, but they can also,
hold on a second. I gotta do this. It's already been an hour? Goodness.
They can also take that for granted and act out.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it works the same if they have bad parents. But, I mean, within my friends, that have, I guess, healthy relationships with their parents, you don't always know the full story behind a child's home.
Mm-hmm.
Only what you hear and what they tell you is what you know.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I know, I mean, I have some good friends that, you know, they have healthy relationships with their friends, and I'm sure that reflects at home too.
Mm-hmm.
And also another thing is if they don't get that attention from their parents, people become so moody, like they use their attitude as a way of manipulation, like they push you away so that you gravitate towards them.
Mm-hmm. So you chase them.
Yes,
because
like a form of manipulation.
Yeah, because they want you to chase them.
Yeah,
or they want you to be like, no, but come here. That's not what I meant. You know what I meant.
It's like they tell you that they don't need you, so that kind of manipulates you into thinking that you need them.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can keep you in their life in this sort of way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So I hopefully that answered your question, Angel. If anybody else has questions for Lariyah or myself, it doesn't have to be about, whatever questions you guys might have. Now is the time. I'm going to be about however many people want to answer a question. Then we're going to hop off this live because it's going to be 9 o'clock. So if nobody has questions, I appreciate you guys for tuning in here with me and Lariyah on our first live together. And hopefully if you guys have suggestions, if you guys want to know, if you guys want to, we might be doing this again. Part 2 might be coming because I think this was fun, and there may be different questions, right? This was definitely hopefully you guys got something out of it. I hope some of you resonated with this. I know I was reading the comments as she was talking, so it seemed like you guys those who attended enjoyed this live. I will be posting this on my YouTube channel by the season 4 tarot. And yeah, when I'm able to download it. Any closing message, Lariyah?
I think that if you be nice to your kids, they'll be nice to you.
That's not always true though, because a kid can really a kid can be sweeter than pie to their parents and love their parents so much, but if that parent comes from a broken home or a broken childhood and they're maybe in addictions, they're not gonna know how to appreciate that child's love.
Another thing, I guess, if you guys don't really know if your kid is shut down, or I guess you don't really know if they're sad or not, because a lot of teenagers or people in general, they tend to mask that and pretend that they're happy so that it doesn't raise suspicion, and so that they don't feel on the spot, so that they have to open up. because you can't force somebody to open up. They're gonna come to you when they feel ready to. But if you're wondering, like, I guess signs like that, they're having trouble, in general with friends, is because they'll definitely become more irritable. Certain thing, like little things can, well, like they'll break down from certain things maybe. From little things that irritate them. They tend to become more quiet because they're in their own mind. Sometimes you can tell when a person is anxious. They're quiet, maybe they're fidgety, they're looking down. But yeah, those are just some things I think you guys should just look out for. If
and even even as an adult, these are things that adults have to deal with too as well. It's not only teenagers, but
and for old school parents too.
Old school? What? Wait. Wait a minute, Lariyah. What is old school, Lariyah? What's old school?
No, I mean, like, if you guys think that if you think that
she calls me old, guys. Come on.
Because she has gray
I'm
hairs.
38 and I have gray hairs, but listen, they're sparkling. I call them my sparkle strings because you know how they put those, what are those things called that they put in the hairs? The glitter things, what are they called?
Hair tinsel.
Hair tinsel? That's what they look like. That's what my white hair look like. Shoot, I earned these white hairs. I sure did, and they twinkle in my black hair, so it's good. Oh man, thank your mom's the truth. That is Ruth the truth, y'all. So this was my girls call me ancient. Shay Marie, let me tell you, why is this? You know what? I'm gonna admit something to you guys. I recently, not too long ago, my son showed me how to use the mobile app Pay. I kid you not. I learned that this year. Okay? Call me ancient, call me old, call me grandma, whatever. But listen, I can't get with the new times. Sometimes it's hard. All right, you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in here so much. I hope you guys appreciated this live with me and Lariyah. And I will see you guys sometime soon. Hopefully you guys are paying attention to my YouTube channel and the videos I have posted along with my Patreon. I heart everybody. Thank you guys so much for giving us this time, this space, your time, your energy. Much love to you guys, and you guys have a good night.
Bye-bye.